All right. Well, welcome to Spilling the Tea in Studio D. That's what we call our little podcast. And we have some very special guests with us today. We have Jackie and Richard from the Summit Bus Company. And we're so appreciative of you guys taking up your time today to come in here. And more importantly, let's talk just a little bit about what you guys have been doing for us as far as, recognizing our bus drivers. And let me just say, first of all, shout out to the bus drivers out there, because these have been some key people during the pandemic.
Definitely.
And I want to say, truly from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the fact that you guys realized how important these people are in the world of education. Candace, she can tell you too, but, basically when the schools were shut down, the bus drivers were the folks that were some of the folks that were on the front line delivering meals, delivering books, those kinds of things. And for you guys to step up like you have and, to recognize the best of the best, if you will, we really do appreciate the partnership. And that being said, I guess maybe, Jackie, you can start and maybe tell the folks how the relationship, if you will, with Dawson and Summit began.
Well, we have always been a strong supporter of the buses, the bus people. I come from a different OEM and later on become part of International Group. We're Summit Truck Group. We have 26 dealerships at this time, and recently have just been purchased by Rush with over 100. And in that, there's many IC dealers. The group that I come from we didn't have buses. So when I started going out and visiting with these bus shops and meeting the bus drivers and the bus technicians, it really is practice with all of them that they carry the most valuable cargo on earth. And they carry the burden of that.
Right.
And they take that very, very seriously. And last year, we had an opportunity to get together with some vendors, and we wanted to honor those guys. And we got with the technicians, and we got with the directors, and we said, what do y'all want to know? And of course, it was the ESSER funds and everything that. So we provided a place in Hot Springs and Rogers for them to get together and discuss a lot of things that was happening during the pandemic, which was the theme of that. And Dawson partnered with us in Hot Springs, and the Northwest Arkansas Student Transportation Association Co-op partnered with us in Rogers. And when we went and asked them, what do you want? They told us, and we put that together, and it turned out to be an incredible event. And through that process of going to all these different schools, I mean, you really do not understand what they're going through right now with making sure that these kids are safe and spraying these buses, and the technicians are hours and hours in sanitation, and then these bus drivers are trying to keep these masks on these kids and trying to keep, they get to know these children, and it doesn't know, they're not hauling chickens. They're hauling children, and they really carry a burden every day, but during that time, it was like it was magnified. Right. And we really wanted to cater to them, and we wanted to make sure that we wanted to step it up, and we spoiled them rotten. And because of you guys partnering with us and the vendors, we were able to really enjoy 2 days at each places and really get to know everybody. And through that, Summit has become more involved with Dawson because you guys are very, very active in recognizing, I think, is forgotten people in the school.
Well, Richard, you've had, the privilege, and it certainly is a privilege. I mean, I know I try to get out. Candace has been on one or two of them. The privilege of being there when those guys are recognized. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, what's your sense of, when you're there on site and those guys are recognized? We've been able to surprise a couple of them.
Yes, definitely. I had said before, when Katie shows up and jumps out with the balloons and the jacket, right. Kind of looks like the prize patrol.
Right.
So, okay, what's going on? Like the other morning, a call went out to one of the driver they had recognized, and they said to him, "Can you come to the office right now?" and he had no clue what was going to go on. So when he got there and saw balloons and things like that, I'm sure he was a lot more relieved. But he's a person that's had 29 years with the school. His wife is in the cafeteria and custodial. He shared with us that she got asked one day about COVID and everything, and and she said, how many kids do you have? And she said 750.
Right.
And so those are the kind of folks that's that dedication, like Jackie was mentioning. That so they go day in and day out, maybe for a lot of years, 29. Right. I don't know if 29 years, but nobody gives them the pat on the back, know.
Right.
And with what we did with our Summit Bus Expo. These guys got to get out, let their hair down, cut loose, and talk to one another, talk to us, and it was just a really good time. In our expo, we brought in a guest speaker, an ex-Arkansas Razorback and professional football player who had won the Super Bowl. And these guys were like, "Man, y'all brought that for us to,
That's awesome.
So those are kind of things that just that recognition that hey, somebody cares about what you do.
Right.
So and the smiles and I'm still here. I'll drop in at a school district. I'm still hearing about that.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You would probably be shocked to know that I used to drive a bus occasionally. So just driving in a sub route was difficult enough. So, but having to do it every day, I really thank those folks, and they do a great job.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do it every day. I wouldn't.
Yeah. And I started out as a teacher and a coach, and again, I never had everyday route either. But like you're saying, being a sub route, it's probably worse in lots of on lots of levels. But buses. I mean, I've been in it now going on 26 years, but the buses of today are nothing like they were 26 years ago.
Right.
So talk about that a little bit. Even with COVID, I think, that's something probably, the parents would want to know. I mean, how are buses being equipped to help parents ease their mind a little bit?
For COVID?
Yeah, for COVID.
So the latest funding that the schools got is to help provide air filtration, also make sure that they have air conditioning. One of the things about COVID, obviously, is you catch it through breathing. It's in the air. And I'm not medical, but I know that one thing is a fact. So the COVID money that's out there helps the schools to put air conditioning on buses or HEPA filters and things like that. And that also the funding goes for new systems in the school itself. So that's another layer of protection that parents can know about and feel a little more comfortable about. So all new buses, and I got to say this year everything that's been ordered has air. I don't have as high of a take rate on the HEPA filters yet.
Right.
But everything has air conditioning. So, and then there are filters in those air conditioners. And so the other side of it is a lot of schools, we're partnered with a group that also has a spray that lasts, 6 months,
6
I think,
months.
Jackie? And,
It's organic and yeah.
so the buses are sprayed down. That spray kills on contact the COVID and other cold and flu and whatever else that gets in contact with.
Right.
And it stays attached to that for 6 months. You don't have to spray again for 6 months. So, that's one other thing that our drivers and stuff were doing in the early days. Every day they come from a route, respray the bus.
Right.
So
wiping it down.
And so we see that in restaurants and everything too. But with this product that's 6 months out, it takes a little load off of them so they can do other things.
Oh, for sure. I know some of our schools probably, their routes are starting like at 5:30 a.m. So they're having to get there, sometimes an hour earlier in order, to get the bus ready. And that's incredible technology. And most of all, it's safer for the kids, and it puts mom and dad's mind at ease a little bit.
Sure.
So. Jackie, back to these summits that Summit puts on, or however you want to call it. So, what are some of the topics that you all covered this past year, and maybe going forward? What do you see maybe that you guys will be talking about?
Well, this year we, of course, ESSER was a big thing with the directors, understanding that and having a comprehension of that, trying to go through that maze and what was covered and what wasn't covered. Of course, air disc brakes and hydraulic disc. That's a thing that these guys needed training on, and they wanted gasoline engines. A lot of people are going with gasoline engines now. We had a hands-on class for that, and we the vendors that we had a lot of vendors there, but a lot of it was pertaining to the protection over the COVID, and like he said, the one that we teamed up with, just he heard about us through a friend, and we immediately grabbed hold of that because it's been around for 20 years and it is organic in nature. It's in mouthwash. It's so we grabbed hold of that because what they're spraying the school buses with is rusting out the school buses, and we had seen this. So through that Summit Bus Expo, this come to light, and so we are this here. You spray it one time, it's done. It protects the bus, it protects the kids, and you don't ever have to worry about it anymore. And so things like that came out of it, and it was just a lot of information that we never needed before that we need now. And so we were very, very, very pleased about the vendors and the classes. And when I decided to do this, I'm over the state of Arkansas in operational sales. I went to the directors and to the technicians, and I said, "What do you guys need to know?" And they told me. So with us just recently being bought out by Rush, it looks like we probably will go forward with the expo, but I will go back to the directors and to the drivers or whatever and say, what do you guys need from us? What do you need from us? And it also helps us get a better grasp. I mean, we're in the business to sell parts and to sell school buses and to assist the schools. And it gives us a better understanding of what your needs are. And we were kind of shocked about some of that ourselves, some things that we really didn't recognize that we were missing the boat on and that we were not taking care of with our customers that we could be. We started a lubrication division where we bring in these stackables and clean up. We have a bus program with that, and we go in and all these barrels sitting around, we go in and we clean that up, and we've purchased, Summit purchased all these stackables, and we put all that in a stackable one. It's there, and you guys ain't got this stuff, all these chemicals sitting around unidentified. So there was a lot of things that we learned from that, and it got started because there was so much unknown, and we were very, very blessed. In June, we had 500 people at the two expos.
Wow.
We had, I think, around 80 school districts represented, and we put on a lot of classes, and we did not have one COVID case
Wow.
come out of that. So we were very blessed.
Yeah, that's
about that.
awesome.
Well, one of the things I think too that obviously that's, I hear you guys talking about the safety, that kind of stuff, but by making these buses safer for the kids, hopefully it's going to help with the bus driving problem, because bus drivers, all-time shortage. I mean, I think you cannot drive by a school district and see a banner, somewhere on campus say, hey, we're hiring, we need bus drivers. So maybe that's going to put some minds at ease and be willing to drive that we probably before wouldn't be thinking about it because of COVID. It's to the point now, this past or last week, the Department of Ed, along with the Department of Transportation under that Department of Ed umbrella, they're recruiting college kids. So, I mean, if you're 19 years old and older, and they're really pushing that down to say, hey, we need you. Come on out and get a bus, get licensed, be a bus driver. And one big benefit, I was talking to one of the superintendents at the meeting we all just left, and he said, we need to be pushing that out from the standpoint, if nothing else. I mean, that's 2 years that can go toward your retirement. We got, that's where we're at. We got to figure out a way to do it. But I think pushing out, things like the summit or these big meetings like you guys are doing, and letting them know it's safe to drive a bus. And the other part of that is a lot of these buses, compared to some of the ones, Candace, that you and I probably drove, it feels like they drive themselves. It's not the old, where you got to drop the axle and good Lord.
Well, and I'm just saying, I was a kid that rode the bus K through 10th grade probably until I was 16 and got a car, drove, but I was first one on, last one off, and I would have loved to have had an air conditioned bus.
Yeah,
I would have loved it.
Exactly. So, but you know, I as I look at some of these buses today, I think they're built much safer. Lots of ways to do that. So,
Yes.
and then I know earlier, Richard, I heard you talking about pretty much. I guess the main manufacturing plant is in Tulsa.
Yes, sir. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Now, are you guys from Arkansas? Yes.
Like originally?
Yes,
Okay,
originally.
yes, I was actually born in Oklahoma, and I've lived in Arkansas 27 years. So
Wow.
I think that's enough to say
Yeah, that
I'm.
counts.
I can't say native,
We'll count. We'll count you.
but yeah, you know, when I first got with the bus plant, I started to work in Conway, Arkansas, which was what Dave Ward had started way back in the 1930s, and then. After the Ward family sold out to Amtran, it was called Amtran, then International bought into it.
Right.
And at that time, they were looking to just be a sole chassis supplier to a body manufacturer.
Right.
And, you know, then this comes to that, and they're like, hey, you know, why don't we just buy it all? You know, so they ended up with the bus plant of it, the bus body side of it as well. Then around 2010, the market wasn't so good, so they shut down Conway, and all assembly operations ended up in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and it sounds like you know, with Rush coming in, it's going to be I guess even a stronger company with I guess more. I don't know how you would even say that, but more tentacles, if you will, coming into the company and thus making the company stronger.
Yeah.
One of the things that you talked about, and it's just interesting to me, not that it's going to ever catch, you know, on a whole lot, but talk about these the EV vehicles that you're talking about, and to me, you know, I can barely wrap my head around an electric car or battery operated, but but the school bus is out there,
Yes.
and so let's just talk about that. Maybe what you know about it.
Okay. So right now, you know, there's a big push across the world to reduce carbon coming out of our automobiles and stuff like that. Well, bus has been looked at as being a pretty large polluter with the diesel engines and everything. You know, back during the early 2000s, prior to the early and mid 2000s, you know, you could start a bus or a truck and black smoke everywhere. The push went to green diesel. You know, and we use ultra low sulfur diesel, and we have gasoline and propane and stuff like that. But to keep pushing those levels down, you're going to have to go into an EV. You know, I think there's a lot of argument out there that there's other CO2 producing things to produce the batteries and stuff like that.
Right.
So, you know, I think it kind of remains to be seen where we go. But we are being pushed towards that. The buses are totally electric. Okay, there is no fossil fuel on that bus to create heat for the heaters or run an air conditioner or anything like that. Those are all done by electric motors. And then you have different size of battery packs that go into them. And of course, those are going to determine cost of the vehicle. So they do it what's called a battery string. So you can do a one string, that's basically a one battery. You get about 70 miles off that charge. Of course, that's going to depend on if you have hills or you're running the air conditioner. In the state of Arkansas, we are what's called an air brake state. So most of our bigger buses, which is what all of our schools have to use air for the brakes. And so that means they're all going to have air compressors to build the air. Right. So, you know, that 70 miles you may get that, you may not. So there's a lot of challenges that's going to come along with EV. You have challenges with your charging systems, you know, the infrastructure of it. How is your school set up to be able to do those kind of? If you try to plug in 20 buses all at one time, your regular 240 coming into your school is not going to do that. You're probably going to need something like 800 kilowatts or something like that, and so you're going to do all new infrastructure. One way around that is if you're parking buses at different schools. You might have two over here, two over here, two over here. You could probably go with smaller. So what I guess my message to everyone is, you know, don't just put your head down and run into the wall. You're going to have to do a lot of investigation, a lot of questions will have to be answered before you ever start this, because you'll throw away $500,000 before you ever know
yeah.
where it went.
Right.
And so, and you're no closer to having your problem solved. But, one thing about it was interesting to me is once they had a 3-string battery on a bus, and you're getting like 355 horsepower out of these buses.
Wow.
So if someone were ever to get in it and drive it, they would love the performance, because I mean, a lot of our electric cars are extremely fast and very
Right.
powerful, but
Right.
only for a short period of time.
Right.
So,
Right.
Well, and that's the part I think is it's one of those things, new technology, and it, kind of a wait and see kind of thing.
It is.
So, but
another thing was said, this is the new shiny thing. So there's going to be a lot of attention on it right now. And,
right.
an estimate was put out there that by 2026 it might be 20%. And so, we kind of questioned,
Yeah.
where'd you get that number? And,
Yeah.
well, it's an educated guess. Well, yeah, but what are you basing that on?
Exactly.
So we have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. As most things are.
Yes,
kind
sir.
of, when they say educated guess, it's wait and see.
Yeah.
So, well, I tell you, I know you guys have got to get out of here, but we did want to take the time just to sit here and visit with you for a minute. But more than anything, I want to tell you how much we appreciate.
We appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir,
Oh,
we do.
definitely appreciate you all.
To shine a light on the bus drivers and all that they do, and and until you've sat in that seat with a bus full of kids, you really and truly you can't appreciate the full weight of that job on some
Right.
days. I mean, and it kind of like the postman. I mean, rain, sleet, and snow, they drive through it all.
Right.
And like you said, Jackie, I mean, it's the most precious cargo you could ever imagine. And I promise you, they to wear that weight on their shoulders every single day of getting them home safely, that is
Huge
something.
responsibility.
Yeah, they need to be recognized for it. So when you make the transition, you guys will be called.
Rush Truck Group.
Rush Truck Group, and I think
Okay.
what we'll kind of say colloquially for us is going to be Rush Bus Center.
Okay, gotcha.
Rush bus. I like that.
Yeah, Rush Bus Center.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well,
'Cause across,
there's a lot of unknowns right now.
yeah, there is. Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty new, right?
I just know that across what I've seen, they like to use the word center.
Gotcha.
So I've seen that. They may change
Right.
it with us. I
Rush
don't
Truck
know.
Center, is that what?
Right.
Yeah, Rush Truck Center, Rush Bus Center.
Right.
We met the owners, and they were he was just an incredibly down to earth person. I was a little bit
Right.
shocked. I mean,
Well, that's good.
He come and visit us and put everybody at ease, and wanted us to go on because we're a very successful company.
Right.
And Summit has just really excelled in the 6 years that it merged.
Sure. Right.
And so his thought is, he said I can write a check for every one of these buildings, but I can't fill them full of people.
Right.
So he seems to me like he's got a lot of common sense. I was very impressed with him.
Well, that's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that we like to do, we try to, kind of get at least one, I don't know, personal type question. So last time we did this, we asked people basically, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten and maybe the worst advice you've ever gotten? So think on that. And it doesn't have to be related to work, just life in general.
You go first.
We like putting folks on the spot. don't we?
So probably the best, I think, come from my grandmother. I've always been impressed with that Depression, World War II generation and things like that. But towards the end of her life, she was older, probably 70s. Was working in nursing homes, helping sometimes people younger than her. And she says, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And was talking
Wow.
about your health and your
Sure.
physicalness. And that's always stuck with me. Is just
Right.
keep on the move,
So
keep
true.
learning, keep going forward. And so,
Right.
the worst piece of advice. That is a tough one.
Yeah.
Can Jackie go?
Yeah, sure.
I think the best advice would be you write your own story every day, and I
Right.
say that to my grandchildren every morning if I'm dropping them off. But kind of I tell them you're writing your story today, so
Right.
think about at the end of the day what you want that to say. And the worst would have to be follow your heart. I think that in a broad statement is not something that I would advise anybody to do because it's
Yeah.
got me in trouble enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Or get into
Yeah.
trucking.
Yeah.
Actually, trucking's been very, very good to me.
So actually, she triggered one for me, and I've always heard this is you can be anything you want, and to some level, I believe that. But also, everybody has a different skill set.
Right.
You know, we always heard you can be president of the United States one day. I could never be the president of the United States.
Right.
I don't have the skill set for that.
Right.
But I do have skill sets in other things.
Right.
So I think sometimes it's a little bit of taking people down the wrong road. But now some people it would be total inspiration. But for me, you know,
Right.
to tell me I'd be president, no, I would never be president.
Right. Right.
It's just
I-
not going to happen for me.
We used to tell students all the time, you know, we're all here for a purpose to make this crazy world go round.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
we all have a
Takes
gift,
all kinds
gift
of
and
guys.
talents.
It
That's
does.
right.
Guys, we have really enjoyed partnering with Dawson, and we
Well.
wanted to tell you guys that. You have
Yeah.
it's been a great partnership, and for you guys to get
Yeah.
behind us on that expo was
Well,
incredible.
well, we appreciate it, and we must apologize. Katie is so low key and such a dove, you know. So.
We'll work on that. Gotta get her-
No, Katie is Katie Brown, who we talked to you for those that may not know, but she's our PR person, and she's as much as I hate to admit it, she's kind of a bucket of sunshine every day. So,
Yeah, she is. She's
and it's-
pretty awesome.
And as she'll tell you, it's been good for her just to get out and experience the different sides of schools, I guess would be a good way to say that. But we do appreciate you guys coming by and look
Definitely.
forward to the continued partnership. So that's going to wrap it up for this. I guess this is episode 2 of Spilling the Tea. in
That's right. Sounds
Studio
good.
D. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.